How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve and welcome back to my channel. So tonight I want to share my top 10 favorite hard rock and metal drummers. If you've seen my channel before, you know I've done one before where I had top 10 favorite guitar gods. So this is kind of on kind of that same kind of topic, but just with drummers. As far as this list, I've got there's like two drummers I want to give honorable mentions to. One is Ian Pace from Deep Purple, and the other one is Ginger Baker. Of course, these are two really great drummers. And obviously there's been, great drummers over the years, and hard rock and blues and just all over the place. I mean, please share in the comments. Let me know your top 10, because I'm sure it's not going to match mine exactly. I have some that are probably on most people's list, and also I have some that wouldn't be on anybody's list probably. But these are some great drummers. As people I've listened to over the years. Obviously, there's been so many great ones, but and then these are a lot of the ones I've liked since I was a kid. So some of them are kind of different kinds of bands. They're not all like heavy necessarily, but hard rock could be. You can kind of label that different ways. But one of them probably wouldn't even be hard rock necessarily. But I had to include them on this list. But so number 10, I've got to put Dave Lombardo. He's known for Slayer, Testament, Suicidal Tendencies, Mr. Bungle. And obviously you've seen him, if you've seen him with like the Misfits, he's been like the touring drummer for a long time. So he's in high demand, he's in and out of Slayer a few times, but he's great. He can play different styles. He's a fast drummer. He's a technical drummer. I saw he was on on a music, on YouTube. I saw him like at a music store in Los Angeles, and he showed how diverse his tastes are in music. It really kind of surprised me. But if musicians, they like all kinds of different styles. Even though he's known for being a metal drummer, but he can do all kinds of stuff. But so that's my number 10. Number 9, this one, what some people may not even consider him to be necessarily a drummer. Well, at least not a full-time drummer. But and I had to kind of put him kind of low just because he's known for being like a front man now. But he's a great drummer, and he's played a lot over the years. He's played on different people's albums and played on some albums from his own band. But I had to put Dave Grohl at number 9. He's known for Nirvana and Foo Fighters, Tenacious D. He's played with them Crooked Vultures, Probot. He's been on the Queens of the Stone Age. In fact, with that band, I think at one time I had heard that he had thought about disbanding the Foo Fighters and just becoming the full-time drummer for Queens of the Stone Age. If you know Songs for the Deaf, that album. It's a really great album. I think it's their best album, and his drumming is really spectacular on that one. But people know him mostly for being a frontman to Foo Fighters, and with that band, he had Taylor Hawkins, the late Taylor Hawkins there, and I always thought that Dave Grohl was a better drummer than Taylor Hawkins, even though Taylor was a great drummer. But he wasn't even the best drummer in his own band, necessarily at the time. But so I had to put Dave Grohl here. At number 8, this one, I think the latter years of their career, I think his drumming had definitely dropped off a lot. But if you know this drummer from the 70s and 80s and 90s, I'm putting Alex Van Halen at number 8. I think when he was younger, I think he really was a great drummer. I saw him at Van Halen in 2007. I didn't think he sounded that good, and then I saw him again in 2015, and I didn't think he sounded very good at all. Unfortunately, they say with drummers, they're like the first ones to go as far as their technique and being able to play fast, and they're usually the first ones to go in a band. Especially in fast bands. And Van Halen they weren't extremely fast, but they played at a pretty high tempo. So usually the drummers are the first ones to go in those bands. But at number 7, this is the one that probably wouldn't be considered hard rock necessarily. But I've got Stuart Copeland from the Police. I think he's a great drummer. I love the Police. I would like to do like a ranking of their albums sometime in the future. But a lot of people like the Police. I was a kid when I think 1983. I was 10 years old. So the Police were almost done by that time. I think they technically disbanded in 1985 or so, 86. But at that time I'd been listening to the Police a lot when I was a kid. So I think he's a great technical drummer. He's done a lot of like film scores. I think he did like Rumblefish at one time. So he's done a lot of different stuff. But like I said, it really, the Police were some people kind of group them in with like punk when they first started. So they were maybe slightly heavier when they first started, but they were definitely more of a pop rock group, but I'm including him in my list because I think he's such a great drummer. Number 6, this one, I think a lot of people would agree with this one. I've got Danny Carey from Tool. Man, what a great drummer! I mean, like what he's considered. You know, Neil Peart was like his like idol. You know, he comes from that kind of playing. You know, he's that technical. You know, really the Tool is really considered to be kind of like a prog metal band, sort of, or progressive metal in a lot of ways, but. And it's a lot of people consider it to be metal or hard rock, you know, but they're kind of in that way. But he's definitely that unique kind of drummer that I love his style. You know, Tool only releases an album like every decade or so. It's been, who knows when they'll do another album. Let me know in the comments if you know if Tool's working on anything right now, because I can't wait to hear that. The last album I thought was fairly good, maybe a little bit too long, but I thought his drumming was really great on it. Number 5, I've got this one. I think a lot of people will agree with me. I've got Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. Love that, you know, love that style, and then that debut album. He's got I forgot what it's like the end of one of the songs there where he's playing that style where he's not even hitting the cymbal. And he's kind of like a jazz drummer, a blues drummer, jazz drummer. So for you know, Black Sabbath is considered to be the people that, you know, the band that started metal. And so he's definitely, I had to include him on my list. I mean, Black Sabbath's one of the most influential kind of bands in the world, and Bill Ward's a huge part of their sound. So I had to put him at number 5. And number 4, I have Mike Portnoy. A lot of people know him from Dream Theater and Transatlantic. He's also the Winery Dogs. Obviously, it's probably one of the more popular ones, bands he's been in. OSI. I think he comes from that another one that comes from that Neil Peart kind of school. You know, that really technical drummer. He's got all kinds of different styles. If you listen to what he likes to listen to, he's got everything from prog to metal to hard rock. Different decades. You know, Mike likes everything, and he's a really nice guy too. I've seen him a lot on Sea of Tranquility. He's a really down to earth kind of guy. You know, during the pandemic, he would do a lot of live streams on Sea of Tranquility. So you know, I really think a lot of Mike Portnoy, not just as a drummer, but as a person as well. But he's really a really technical drummer, and so I've got a number 4. And number 3, I have Keith Moon from The Who. Obviously, he's an influential kind of drummer. He's there before any of these guys on my list. You know, it's like not necessarily the guys in the honorable mentions, but anybody on my list, he was there before any of them. So he's huge influence. You know, from the 60s. You know, he the 60s and 70s, and he died in 78 or so. You know, wild kind of party kind of guy. But a lot of people consider Keith Moon to be their big influence on them. So I had to put him at number 3. So number 2 is where people probably disagree with me on this. You know, this is my list. You know, it's like I said, leave in the comments how you would rank these. You know, you may have almost completely different drummers. You know, there's no wrong answers. I love hearing people kind of share with me what they like. You know, you like what you like. I like what I like. You know, but so at number 2, I have John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. Obviously, great drummer, great power drummer. Just so much power. You know, he has a son named Jason that kind of carried on. As Jason's not quite as good as his dad, but you know, John Bonham's considered to be one of the greats. Led Zeppelin's one of the best bands ever. You know, I've done a ranking on Led Zeppelin. I can leave that in the link that into this video. But you know, so many great albums, and he was there like technically on 8 albums, 9 albums. You know, he left his mark, you know, during that time. And so I've got him number 2. So number 1, I have Neil Peart from Rush. Some people pronounce his name Peart, but you know, a great drummer. Sadly, he passed away in 2020. Actually, right before the pandemic really became a major issue at the time. And nobody knew he was sick at the time, and it was really sad to learn that he, you know, I think Rush had already broken up 3 or 4 years earlier. So. But at that time, we thought maybe there's a chance Rush could get back together. But when he passed away, just suddenly, you know, nobody could believe it. It was really sad. It's probably one of the saddest announcements I had ever heard. You know, but love Rush. I mean, I've done a ranking on Rush before too. Obviously, Neil considers Keith Moon to be one of his favorite drummers, you know, so that's why I had to put Keith Moon at number 3. But Neil Peart, you know, he's that guy that influenced so many drummers. You know, so technical. They started off kind of more like a prog band back in the 70s, and then in the 80s it became more of a pop rock band, hard rock band. You know, really more commercial. And then in the 90s they got back to playing a little bit heavier. You know, love listening to the Rush's albums. He's a big part of that. He's a guy that he wrote the lyrics for Rush too. That's how big he was, and it's not just as a drummer, but he wrote the words that Geddy Lee sang so often, you know. So I think the world of him, and just like I said, John Bonham's a great drummer as well, but I had to put Neil at number 1. So please, if you like this ranking, please put a thumbs up on it. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do that, and have a good night. Thank you.